Welcome to episode 8 of Thrashcast. My name is Billy, and I'm here with my co-hosts Jim and Ken. How you guys doing?
Awesome.
Good, sir.
All right, great. Let's just quickly start with a housekeeping item where you can find us. So we're at www.horrormetalsounds.com, and you can find us on YouTube. Same thing, Horror Metal Sounds, but at keng.2864. So let's go on to today's topic. Another thrash band, Exodus, certainly from the Bay Area. And the album we selected is from 1989, and we're talking Fabulous Disaster. And so a couple other things we're going to cover. We're going to do our top 3 Exodus albums. And then we felt that, certainly I felt that 1989 just might be one of the best years in metal, certainly for thrash. So we're going to do our top 10 albums of 1989. So that should be interesting. I had a lot of fun pulling my stuff together. So before we jump into that, though, let's go to the What's Spinning and News segment. So Ken, how about you kick us off there?
Absolutely. So I thought tonight we would start with Sacrifice. And as you can see here,
nice.
Glare here so everybody can see it. Soldiers of Misfortune is 34 years old today. April 30th, 1990. It was released on Diabolic Force. And this is the 3rd studio album from Sacrifice. They are probably considered part of the great big Canadian 4 thrash, along with Razor, Annihilator, and Voivod, if you want to include Voivod in that mix. This is a killer record. I absolutely love this record. It has As the World Burns on it, Pawn of Prophecy, A Storm in Silence, Soldiers of Misfortune, the title track. What a great album. So I just wanted to say, happy anniversary. Gus, if you're listening, and I know you probably will be, happy anniversary to you guys in the band for this album. And this is something that will start, kick us off for the on the thrash side of things. So there's a two things I'm going to mention here for us, so we're all in this, so we all know what's kind of going on. We do have, first of all, I'll do the t-shirt. We do have a t-shirts coming out for not Horror Metal Sounds, but for the Thrashcast podcast. And I'll hold it up. I don't know if
nice.
Yeah, there it is. We have shirts. So Billy and I have ours, and Jim's is on the way. So you will be seeing us wearing shirts, and hopefully eventually we'll be able to sell shirts for everyone who wants to support our podcast. So that's with the shirts. Now, one more thing tonight. We're going to be doing, 2 more things actually. Sorry about that, guys. A giveaway. So I have copies here. See if I can get the glare off it, of Cerebral Star's new EP. So Mike sent this to me. He's the band has actually signed it, so they've given me 2 copies that are signed, and we will be giving these away. So what we're asking everyone, when you hear this podcast, whether you listen to it on YouTube or you on Spotify, but I'm assuming more or less on YouTube though, leave us a comment. Give us a like, leave us a comment. And we just want to know what your favorite Exodus album is. And also, if you could just give us maybe just a little reason why you like it. What we'll do is once we get enough comments, we'll pick a good comment that we both like, and we'll mail you out a copy of the CD. Just courtesy of the Thrashcast.
Nice. Can I apply? I don't have it.
That's a signed copy.
Yes, it is. Signed by Mike and the band. Mike and the band have signed it for us.
Very nice.
And one last little item that I'm going to bring up here. So I know we've discussed, the podcast, but doing some written reviews for Thrashcast. So, for example, I like the idea of maybe we can't cover every album on the show. There's so many albums out there. Maybe there's enough that we may not cover, but we may want to write a written review, which we'll post up on horrormetalsounds.com. And what I was thinking is that anyone out there who has an interest in asking us to talk about a certain album, you can certainly write to us at horrormetalsounds@gmail.com or at Gmail, sorry, at horrormetalsounds@gmail.com. Please write us there. Leave us a comment if you like. We're looking for, or even on Instagram if you want to find us there. Leave us a comment. We would love to hear from you about maybe albums we could cover, either like a written album or even like an upcoming podcast. So what I'm doing, this is the first first album that I will be covering as a written review, and this is Grinder, a German thrash band. This is Dead End. They only put out a couple, 3 albums, sort of the lower tier thrash bands, but I really like this album, so I thought I'd write a review for it. So we're looking forward to that. So that's it tonight for my all my tidbits.
Hey, Ken.
Yes, sir.
So where can you pick up the Cerebral Scar album? Could you get that on their website or Bandcamp? Because I wouldn't mind ordering a copy.
Yeah, if you go to Bandcamp, Jim, you can order it right from their from their Bandcamp site.
Awesome.
And I know they've recently signed to 1054 Records in Australia. But yeah, if you go to the Bandcamp site, Mike they'll send you a copy.
Wicked.
Perfect. Nice. All right. That's it for me.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Ken. Jim, what do you got?
Yeah, what I'm spinning this week is a good classic 1986 album. So, I picked up Razor, Malicious Intent, one of my favorite thrash bands. And I mean, the song Night Attack is wicked on it. These are repressings, so they're kind of neat. They're selling them on their website and on Amazon, and they're a really good price. So you get the original recording. They're not re-records, so I kind of like that. And so that's what I've been spinning, rocking out to that. And just a couple of news items I have. First, I mean, everybody probably is aware, big Megadeth tour coming this summer, late summer in August for the U.S. They're touring with Mudvayne and All That Remains. Just kind of an odd pick, but I guess I saw them last May, and they toured with Bullet for my Valentine's. So they kind of tend to go out with these more kind of different, maybe a different genre kind of band. So, but I mean, that's going to be cool. It's called Destroy All Enemies, and it's pretty neat because they're in South America right now. Came off of an American and Canadian tour last year. I mean, Dave and the boys are just flying through. I mean, they're going everywhere. So I got to commend them. That's pretty cool. And as I've been talking for the past 3 or 4 episodes, Voivod, We Are Connected is done, and they cracked their $32,000. I think they did 32,800 or something like that. And nice. I know I got my response to pick my shirt and the size and that, and I tell you, it's awesome. So it came down to the last 6 hours or whatever, but they did it. So the documentary is going to be a go, and this is just going to be awesome. So, and everybody who gave a little bit of money, hey, you're part of it. So that's awesome. What a great feeling. So that's what I've got there, Billy.
Okay, cool, great. Let me start with what's spinning. So from 1989, from my hometown, I have DBC, Dead Brain Cells, their album Universe. Great so this is a technical thrash masterpiece. Their first self-titled album was more of I don't know, I guess I'd say crossover thrash probably would be more fitting, but both are great albums. Check them out if you haven't heard them before. And it's most importantly, they're actually, as far as I know, working on the new album. They hit Facebook with that, but it's been a bit silent on that front. So hopefully we hear something soon there. And then on the news side, I guess 2 exciting things. The first thing was announced today, a new tour, and this is a thrash tour, all right. So in the U.S. and Canada, and so we've got a Testament, we have Kreator, and we have that. So that's I mean, you can't do better than that lineup. The shows are September and October. So a couple of days in Canada. Sorry, Jim, not heading your way. But yeah, so check that out. That's going to be a shredding tour for sure. And then just the other touring items. So I'm a big fan of 70,000 tons of metal. So something happened, right? The organizers, they had a fire lit under them because all of a sudden they're announcing bans like crazy for 2025. I mean, these guys are notorious for everything being last minute. So the tour will be like February, and the bands and the bookings happening in like November, December. And now the
Hmm.
bookings are pretty much live now. It depends on how many times you've sailed. So I'm booking now. So they're on like gold and silver. But then it'll be open for general booking probably in about 2 weeks or so,
Okay.
would be my guess. And a couple really good. They've announced 15 bands out of the 60 already. So a couple thrash ones, Flotsam and Jetsam and Tankard. So Tankard's kind of cool because for those in
Yeah,
of us
German
over in
Thrash.
North America, not something you see too often. Tankard on the power metal, you got Stradivarius and
Nice.
Lane and that Finnish band. Uh, that got announced today. They're power metal, Finnish power metal.
Finnish Power Metal? Okay.
And anyway, it'll come to me later. I'll
Sure.
throw it in randomly. They got Candlemass, they got Black Metal Emperor,
Nice.
it's already so a nice like variety of bands. So that's pretty cool. So again, I can't recommend that festival enough. It's a little pricier than most, but you can pay in like payments through the year. So if anyone's interested, keep your eye open because this may actually sell out given how early they're doing the sales.
Cool.
All right. So that's what I had on the news, what's spinning side. And once again, I don't know if you guys noticed, but I slipped in a 1989 record in my what's spinning that just missed my top 10. So
That's
I'm,
funny.
I'm cheating. I'm
Hard,
cheating.
man. So it's hard to pick 10 albums. I have so many honorable mentions. It's not
Yeah.
funny.
Well, we'll cover a couple of the honorable
Is
mentions
it
as we
Billy?
go.
Is it Sonica Arctica?
Oh yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, they've been around
Wicked.
forever. So yeah,
They're
Yeah.
awesome.
my
Cool.
50-year-old brain sometimes forgets things. Okay, so let's jump over to Overkill. I'm like 2 podcasts ago to Exodus. So let's start with the bio. And so this is quite the bio. I mean, I was trying to jot together some notes, and this is like a soap opera. I mean, you got member deaths, and you got cancer battles, and the members. And there's connections with the Big Four and other major thrash bands, and people are in, people are out. It's pretty crazy. But here we go. So this surprised me. So the band was formed in 1979, actually by Kirk Hammett and Tom Hunting. Tom, who of course is still the drummer in the band. That was way back when they were in high school. Gary Holt, who we know as the leader today, joined in 81. Original Paul vocalist, original vocalist Paul Bolaf joined also in 81. Then in 83, Kirk Hammett's out of Exodus and he's joined Metallica. So at this point, it really becomes Gary Holt's band. First album is legendary. I'm sure we're going to talk about it today. Bonded by Blood, which was released in 1985. Then, like shortly after that, in the tour, Paul's fired. I think it was alcohol related and some crazy tour stories. But then enter Steve Zetro Souza, who then again, here's another link, who was the original Testament singer when they were called The Legacy. We've got multiple member changes elsewhere. The band Exodus, that is, splits up after after the Force of Habit album in 1992. Then the guys reform in 2001 officially, and Zetro's out again, and Paul's back in. But then Paul passes away from a stroke. So then Zetro jumps back in 2004. Or no, Zetro's back. Yeah, he comes in to do Temple
2000.
of the Dam.
Yeah, 2004.
And then leaves in 2004 due to differences with the band. So this is all a mouthful. So then enter Rob Dukes in 2005. And then you also have longtime guitarist Rick Hunold leaving, and Lee Altus coming in the band. Tom Hunting's in and out during this period. 2014, Rob Dukes is fired. Zetro's back in. Drummer Tom Hunting, thankfully recovers from cancer. So knock on wood, he'll be healthy for some time. He seems to be doing well. The band has 12 albums in total, and then pretty much on hold for a significant amount of time. And then we'll talk a bit about that shortly, but with Gary Holt joining Slayer after the death of Jeff Hanneman. So that's a bit of a mouthful. I need to come up for air after all that. But anything you guys want to add? That's our biggest bio to date.
Yeah, you know what? I was just going to say when you mentioned that the change when Tempo came out, it's kind of funny because he recorded that Zetro. He came in to record after Paul passed away.
Yeah.
And within, I think, 3 months of the recording, he left the band, which kind of sucks. So by September, he was out of the band. They were doing European dates. And what they had to do is they brought in a couple of replacement vocalists to come in and help them out on that tour. So it's funny because when they left the European tour, they had Matt Harvey and Steve Escobar filling in on those dates. When they came back to the States, they joined the Megadeth the Megadeth tour, Blackmail the Universe. I had tickets. I went to see that here in Toronto at the Cool House, and I was all psyched about it because I thought, I'm gonna get to see Zetro, and it was not. It was Paul. It was Dukes. It was Dukes on vocals, which really sucked because it's like this is not what I wanted. But it was a decent show. I mean, but it's just one of the things that I noticed. It was like, oh, what a big disappointment to not have him in the band. But what can you do?
Yeah.
Well, I think I think you guys are right. I mean, you have such a band with massive potential that has done so well and so much, and that revolving door, for whatever reason, I mean, there's a lot of things there that they can't control, but the ins and the outs and the moving around, and it's just like, I mean, I think from the exodus of Kirk Hammett, kind of things just went off they had a lot of great albums, but things were kind of rocky from then on. It seemed like maybe members were maybe looking for better situations or whatever. And it just kind of became sort of a little bit of a band camp for everybody and then back and forth. If you don't want to go there, you come back in. So definitely affected their output and probably, just a lot of touring and stuff over the years. I just can't imagine, not hitting. I mean, the first number of albums were just some of these are thrash masterpieces, including the one we're going to talk about. And to go from there to then just not even knowing probably if they're going to continue at some point. And like you said, Ken, all of a sudden, somebody's back, somebody's out again. And it's just, it's hard to keep a fan interested when that happens.
Yeah, so I guess on that note, let's deal with the vocalist ins and outs. So yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that Exodus has had more of the major thrash bands, more ins and outs of vocalists. So I mean, really, we talked about them. You got Paul, you got Rob Dukes, and Zetro. So my question for you guys, and maybe Ken, you could start here, but who's your favorite, and how would you rank the singers?
Well, it's pretty simple though, Billy. Zetro is hands down their vocalist. That's because he's been there the longest, so it only makes sense that he's the one you're going to remember. I mean, some people think that Paul Baloff is like legendary, and he is technically because he starts this thing out, and he's like, I guess he's like balls to the walls, a thrasher, right? Like he lived a lifestyle, he partied, he drank. On stage, he had such gnarly vocals. I mean, he was synonymous for thrash. I mean, if you want to look at it at that point, it's just unfortunate that he couldn't keep it together long enough to I guess carve out a really good career with the band, and that sucks. But Zetro comes in, and Zetro is a tour de force in it himself. Like
Yeah.
he's great on stage. He's got a great sound. I love his vocals. They're snarly, but he's a bit more even keel. Like he's there to do a job. He's there to sing, and I know he's had his issues like coming and going for whatever reasons. But that guy is like pretty much when I think of Exodus, I think Steve. He's the guy you think about. Now Paul, I'm sorry, not Paul. I keep thinking Paul. Rob Dukes, for example. Rob was okay. And the thing about Rob that I guess for me is like I liked Shovelheaded Kill Machine, his first album.
Yeah.
I thought he was great on it. But the trouble with the band is at that point they bring in Lee Altus, and Lee's from Heathen, and he's much more into technical and progressive playing. And you could see that the albums that Duke sang on, they're getting kind of more, they're long in the tooth. The songs are a lot longer. They're kind of going or trying to go into that Heathen territory with the technical approach. But I don't think as a vocalist, he was good enough. Like he just, it didn't work. He didn't really suit that style. So he struggled. So I'm not surprised they eventually fired him out of the band. It's too bad. I mean, I know there was a lot of bitching after they turfed him, and then they brought back Zetro again, which made sense for them to do that. But at the end of the day, to me, hands down, it's Zetro, Paul, and then Dukes. That's the way I rank the three.
How about you, Jim?
Yeah, I mean, very similar, except for I would probably go with Paul first, just because that first album. I mean, I agree. Like, you make so many great points, Ken, because and I love Zetro. Steve's phenomenal, and I when I rank my three albums, obviously one of the newer ones is in there, believe it or not, because I just freaking love it. And I mean, the Dukes albums didn't really feel like Exodus to me, and that's a good point. I never really thought about that with the Heathen guitarist and probably going in a different direction. And yes, those albums, those songs are definitely a lot longer than what was on their original album. So, I'm glad they brought, I'm glad Steve took over when Paul had his issues. And I think Steve and Paul are both the voice of Exodus more so. And I think the albums are great. I just I would go with Paul, Steve, and then Dukes. Just the way I feel.
Okay. No, all good points. I mean, from my end, like Zetro is sort of is synonymous with Exodus. So he would definitely be my favorite. Just his like no nonsense, urgent delivery of the vocals, and he's also a pretty good like songwriter and like a lyrics writer. So I think he does good. I also like him live. And the other thing I really admire about Zetro is when he's out and about and touring and in the city, like he'll meet and talk with all the fans. And so he's just a really like down to earth kind of a guy. So he's kind of my favorite. I mean, Dukes is a little bit more hardcore. I mean, he was, I always preferred him more live than on the album. But he was pretty aggressive live. He had that like hardcore background. I mean, he was like encouraging violence at shows. And I remember Gary having to like settle him down sometimes in the early days because he would just push like too much on that front. But and yeah, I mean, Paul's great because he was on that classic album, right? Technically speaking, I don't think he's like, a fantastic singer, right? He's definitely rough around the edges. And so, but yeah, I mean, for me, I guess it would be Zetro, Paul, and then Rob Dukes. is the way I would look at it.
Fair enough.
Okay, so next question is we're jumping to album artwork, and I realize I probably should have pulled all three, but so we have the original album, which is eye-catching. It's certainly like shocking, and as a young youth, I mean, I saw you see this on the rack, and you're gonna pick it up.
Yep.
Now, if you from here, they went to Pleasures of the Flesh.
But here's the reissue. Don't forget, though, Billy.
What's that?
This is the reissue of the first album. Keep that in mind.
Okay. So what are you showing? That's the original?
That's the reissue.
No, that's the reissue from '89. They reissued it without that cover because it was a controversial cover at the time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But I mean that's not the real cover though. Yeah.
That is no, that's not the official cover, the OG cover, if you're asking. No.
Yeah, I know. But this is the OG cover.
That's
absolutely.
Correct.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Okay. Cool. We're on the same page.
Yeah. We're on the same page.
Okay. So then obviously that album is shocking. I don't have Pleasures. Do you have it there, Ken?
I do have Pleasures.
And so we showed Fabulous and so then we end up with like album covers of the band. Which to me is a bit odd or unusual, I guess. I always like the nice artwork and the something that gets my attention, and just having pictures of the band was probably a bit unusual for the time. What do you guys think about the artwork? And so obviously with artwork, I'm going to go over to you, Ken, to start with. But any ideas what might have caused the switch in direction, or why do self-portraits on the album covers?
Well, this is my speculation. Now look at like this. Like this is the impact is imminent.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a goofy looking cover, right? Like, why would you put that on a cover? So I'm thinking that and I'll just do one more because I've got it here. Look at this. Look at Force of Habit, for example, which is
that's just terrible.
Awful.
Terrible.
Awful artwork. So what I'm thinking happened is that I think they shied away from covers like because of what happened with the first album. And I think two things. One for me is I have a sneaking suspicion that it was probably cheaper not to hire an artist to bring someone in. And when they did the first album, originally it was called A Lesson in Violence. They couldn't find an artist to come up with and they themselves had a hard time coming up with the cover art. They couldn't do it based on that. So they actually changed the title to Bonded by Blood. And once they did that, they were able to get a cover and they liked it and they put it out. But it's just at that time, I don't know why, but it received such a backlash from people. So that's why the album got reissued in '89. They reissued it with that tame cover for that reason. But I think it kind of snake bit the band. I had this sneaking suspicion that, they just didn't want to go through the hassle of having that happen again. So they went for the easy way out, which was, just put us on the covers, just, band photo covers, and we don't have to pay an artist, first of all, to do it. And secondly, we don't have to even think about it, because I don't think that they were very creative at that time to really do covers. They just didn't, based on what I'm seeing, all those covers are terrible. They weren't Metallica.
Yeah, exactly.
Metallica was great at coming up with cover art, and so was Slayer, and even Anthrax. But Exodus, no, they didn't have it. And it wasn't until Temple of the Dam when they actually brought in a final good cover artist, and a cover that I actually like. I love the Temple of the Dam. I don't know if I have it in front of me or not, but I do have it. You got it. Perfect. Yeah. It's a great album cover. I love it.
Oh yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah, it speaks to me. It's such a great album cover. And then of course from there, that I guess when they sparked this new 2.0 version of Exodus, you're going into Shovel-Headed Kill Machine, which is pretty wild cover, which I kind of like. And then all the covers from there got kind of creative, but I think they might have been a bit gun shy at the beginning, and I'm not sure they were actually the creative types to come up with their image or to cull their image like the way that Metallica did. And Metallica was very meticulous with their image. So was Slayer, and even Anthrax. They were very meticulous how they wanted to look, they sounded, they feel. But I think Exodus, I think, and that's just my speculation, but I think that's what happened.
Yeah, and I guess it's not just the big guys, right? I mean, almost every like thrash band had like art on the cover. Like
Yeah, good
it was
art,
pretty
but
uncommon to do
yeah,
pictures.
but like good art though. Like Testament always had
Yeah,
really
yeah,
good
yeah, no,
covers.
yeah,
Like Exodus was the one band out of the thrash genre that just
yeah.
their earlier parts of their career are great as a classic band, but their covers stink.
I don't get it. Yeah, any thoughts, Jim?
Yeah, I saw an interview where I believe it was record company pushed. Like after
Really?
it kind of Bonded by Blood didn't go over well. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a wicked cover, awesome cover. I love it. It's an iconic cover.
Yeah.
And in '89, they switched it to that kind of weird one that Ken was showing there, just to get it in more like department stores were having trouble carrying it, I think, from what I understand. So it became sort of a record company issue, and then they just were gun shy from it right from the, you hit it right on the head there with that. And I mean, it's kind of sad in a way, because until Tempo, there really wasn't anything. Their live albums weren't too bad. Like what was a Good Friendly Fun? That was a cool cover. It got kind of a metal
I remember
kid with
that
a
one.
ticket on it. And then the other one that came after that wasn't bad, but Tempo and then Shovel-Headed Kill Machine, that's where they kind of, and the newest one, Persona, is phenomenal cover. Excuse me. And I think they really lost a lot of, shelf, just people checking it out. I mean, before these albums were coming out, before YouTube, before you could just look it up online, when we all walked into the record store, we wanted to see a cool album cover. That's what got us into it. I mean, the first, first two Grim Reapers. Yeah, exactly.
Atrocity Exhibition. That's a great cover. I love that cover.
That's another one. But like when you bought the Grim Reaper albums, I didn't hear Grim Reaper before I saw those wicked kick-ass albums. And that's what got me to the first album. I picked it up, bought it. And it's the same thing. You'd walk into the record store and the coolest album covers were amazing. And anyways, I remember when I went to go buy the live one there, Violent Friendly Fun there, the girl at the record store who knew who I was like, I knew you were going to buy this. And I was like, oh yeah, I got to get Exodus. But those album covers and the one we're going to talk about, just kind of but I think I'm pretty sure that's what happened, exactly what Ken said.
Okay, cool. And the original, I think, was on Combat, right? The original Fabulous
Combat, yes.
So, I mean, they had a lot of like artwork on Combat label, so that's interesting. But okay, cool. And so one other sort of unique thing, maybe we'll quickly touch on that. And so I briefly mentioned it. So we actually have Gary Holt, who's pretty much the leader and main songwriter of Exodus, basically put Exodus on the back burner for long periods of time. Gary joined Slayer in 2011 on a temporary basis, permanently joined in 13, and pretty much spent all of 18 and 19 doing the Slayer farewell tour. So I guess the question to you guys, and obviously it's Gary's band, so he's going to do what he wants to do. But do you think that sort of hurt the momentum of Exodus being put on the sidelines? Because we're talking like a decade and a half, and many of the peer thrash bands like Testament were putting out Gold and Death Angel, and we're just doing like killer albums. And these poor guys, like, I feel bad, right? They're sitting on the sidelines. Everyone's touring, making money. I mean, Tom, when he got cancer, pretty much had to do a GoFundMe campaign to help pay the bills. But I mean, partially because he hadn't toured for so long. So what do you guys think? Did it kill momentum? And do we think that's a fair thing that Gary did by doing that? Jim, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, obviously, it absolutely, it stifled their growth as far as I'm concerned. I mean, there's a big, excuse me, a big long gap there where there's a desert of material. There's nothing coming from the Exodus camp. Do I blame them? No, I mean, you're jumping onto Slayer. I mean, come on, it's Kirk Hammett with Metallica all over again, and you know, you kind of, I guess you kind of had to do it. And I would assume during that time frame, you know, Slayer was doing a ton of touring, and they were getting ready for their retirement and stuff. So they really probably worked the hell out of him. I'm sure he probably didn't. They didn't even have time to assemble, even write for a new album or anything like that. So I can't really blame him. I mean, if I was in that situation and Tom Araya called me, I think, fuck, I would go now. You know, like, and say, let's do it now, boys. I'll play the freaking triangle. I'll do whatever.
Yeah. No, and it was interesting because I used to be, or I still am, a big fan of Zetro's YouTube channel, the Toxic Vault or something like that. But like a few times he showed his frustration with the fact that he's sitting around and the band's on hold, and again, like, Gary's the man, right? So what can you do? It's his band. I almost think that, you know, and again, like, would the fans have been upset? I don't know. Let Exodus go on the road and put in a attempt for Gary. Not do new material, but at least let the band make a living, right? That's how bands make money these days, is touring. So I never understood that.
Well, they did. Don't forget.
Billy,
don't forget, they did have a replacement. When he first joined Slayer, they brought in Rick Hunholt. He joined the band just for a brief time on some of the live shows to replace Gary when he was playing in Slayer. So they kind of did at the start.
Yeah, that was when he first left, right?
Yeah, Rick left the band. Well, Rick left the band because he wanted to start a family. That's what he put family first. But yeah, when Gary first left to join Slayer, with the first part, when they invited him, he brought in Rick Hunholt to replace him on guitar during live shows. But of course, that didn't, you know, last a long time.
You know what I would have thought would have been cool is if they would have toured with Exodus, and he could have done. I know it's a lot of work and it's grading and stuff.
He'd be exhausted.
But yeah, man. Like, you know, I would have been friggin' cool, man. 45-minute set before Slayer's 2-hour grind of just killing it. I mean, but I think it would have been cool, at least on some. You're right. You're right, guys. I think something should have happened, and I think that for touring and doing maybe some festivals and stuff, they should have brought in, like, you know, at least in the period of the years that he was out, at least 10, 15 shows a year they should have done, just to stay a little bit relevant, sell some merch and get out there and get, you know, people just banging their heads to it again, you know?
Yeah, like especially 18 and 19, right? Like that's when Gary was pretty much gone, like, fully. Yeah.
Well, look at the gap, though, 2014 to 2021. You get Blood In, Blood Out, which wasn't that great.
No.
And then they had that long gap in between albums until, until Persona Non Grata. So, that obviously would have hurt their momentum. And the thing is, though, you have to realize that, like, Lee Altus, he has Heathen, so he could go back to play in his band.
That's right.
And then also, Zetro was with his sons, right? Because they formed Hatred. Yeah. So both Cody and Nick were playing with him on the first two albums, and then he finally left the band, and then they took over once he walked away from it. But so I guess Tom was out. Tom was left in the cold, and even Jack Gibson was probably left in the cold. So that would suck for those two guys. I would, if I was the bassist. And although I did read that Jack was doing some live pickup shows with that band Allegiance. What was that? Metal Allegiance?
Oh,
That super group thing that was going on for a while. I think they're still around. He was doing some live shows with them. Yeah. But really, those two guys were on the sidelines. So it must have sucked for those guys.
And even the guys who did, right? Like Zetro, I mean, Hatred were playing tiny clubs to probably 50 people, right? Exodus was playing, like, they could go to Europe and play to thousands of people.
Right.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I like Hatred, though. Hatred was great.
Yeah, I like them. Yeah, no, I mean, who knows? They may end up on our show at some point.
That's right.
Sure.
Cool. Okay. So yeah, those are a bit of some off the wall questions or slightly off topic, but kind of interesting, I think. So let's go to the album Fabulous Disaster. Do our usual track by track walkthrough. So first up, we got Last Act of Defiance. Ken, how about you start?
Oh, this is a great song. I love this song. I love the fact that Gary wrote this song, and he wanted to base it on an actual incident that happened in 1980 at the New Mexico State Penitentiary, where there was a riot that lasted for 3 days, and it was insane. Like there was just a lot of crazy crap that went on there. But I love it. I think it's such a great way you get that opening kind of distorted, like
Yeah.
the prison system, and then it goes into the actual song, and then you get that wall of sound, your familiar wall of sound, and it's great. And the lyrics are brutal, and it paints this like really horrible picture of prison life. I love it. It's such a great statement to make on this album for me.
Yep. No, well said. How about you, Jim?
Oh yeah, I mean, this is the third album, and this is just each one is just getting better and better at this point, I think. And although I may have a little bit different of a top three, but anyways, and this song just
We'll
rips
get there.
into it. Yeah, I'm trying to give it away. I mean, it's got a great chorus. The solos are amazing, and I love it at the 4 minute mark when it slows right down, pretty much, and then stops and starts up again, and it's just like, okay, where are we going now? And but the spoken word is cool at the start. You're kind of wondering, when is this going to end? Where's it going? But and the it's just got massive riffs. I mean, it's a great banger of a song to start such a masterpiece of an album out on. I love it. Love it.
Yeah, no, I'm along the same lines, right? Like for me, the whole album's great, but there's like four tracks that on this album
Yeah.
are amongst the best thrash songs of all time, and this is one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, the intro, you guys mentioned it, and I love the part. It ends, am I my brother's keeper?" And then
Yeah.
it starts to rip, and they actually use that line later in another song, but we'll
Yes.
get to that. We'll get to that a bit later. But yeah, what an anthem.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys said it, but some of these songs are for vicious thrash songs.
Mhm.
The band was so good at making them catchy, right? Like you could just sing along, and these things live are just incredible. But yeah, I mean, you guys said it. The biggest standout are the riffs, right? It's just this wall of riffs and the solos, and Zetro, just he means business, right? Right from the
Mhm.
start on this album. So good. The chorus, and I'm gonna go on record and say one of the best guitar duos are Rick and Gary.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They're
Yeah.
just like phenomenal on this album. But yeah, just fantastic. One of my top songs on the album for sure. Okay, so then that leads us into second track, the title track, Fabulous Disaster. So I'll start with you this time, Jim.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of my favorites as well. This is
Yep.
another wicked track. I'd agree with there's some four standout tracks. This for me is one of them. I think this is more of a great drum track.
Yeah.
And the riffs mixed with drums at the start just sounds so cool. And the
Mhm.
vocals don't really cut in until a minute 15, I think it is, into
Yeah.
the song. It's got chugging guitars, again, a great thrashy vibe. This is probably, this is definitely one of the best thrash songs ever written.
Yeah.
And in my mind, one of my top 4-5 on this album. Just a great, you leave the first track and you're heading into this track, and it's getting better and better. So no, it's awesome.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree. I would call out Tom on the drums. I mean, this thing's just like pounding away. He's pounding away here. Zetro, again, I think he does a good job delivering the lyrics. Like it really works well with the music. Like he's not trying. He's very good at not trying to say like squeeze too many words into like different sections. It just works. Hard to explain, but just works really well, I think. And like the vocals vocal hooks, right? Like that part, exterminating faster, devastating, plaster,
Disaster.
fabulous.
Yeah.
Like it's so damn catchy. Like it's crazy, right? I mean, the chorus is a complete earworm. I completely
Yeah.
love it. Lots of attitude from Zetro, and it's just a master class in songwriting, in my view. Ken, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, pretty much the same. Like, I mean, the lyrics are all about the devastation of nuclear war, and yet they're writing this catchy, hooky song that you get into right away. But you don't
Yeah,
even realize that when you think about it, they're talking about like the destruction of the planet, and
yeah,
it's a pretty dire song in terms of lyrics. But they write it in such a catchy way that you can't help but sing along to this song,
yeah,
"Fabulous Disaster." Yeah, those lyrics are great, and the way he sings this song is fantastic. I love this
Yeah.
song. It's so up tempo, lots of chug. The riffs are fantastic. To me, it is probably one of their better
Yeah.
songs. It's in their upper tier of their probably top 5, top 10 songs that they've ever produced. But this is a good song.
yeah. Like I've always found like having seen like Exodus without Zetro, like for me it's a big letdown hearing these like classic tracks with Rob Duke singing them. Like it just doesn't
I
feel
know.
right. And I mean it's not Rob's fault, right? It just
No.
when you have a couple of these and like the Toxic Waltz, which we'll talk about next, but like it's his voice, right? Like it's
Yeah.
so hard to hear someone else. But Jim, what would you like to add here?
It's just it's a great track, and I absolutely love it. It's awesome. It's good. I mean, what else can I say?
All
Yeah.
right, cool. So yeah, so now on to the Toxic Waltz. Ken,
Yes,
why
sir.
don't you start here?
This is funny because this song originally Gary had wrote the music and had a demo tape of it. He handed it to Zetro and said, "Okay, here's the music. Go write some lyrics. Tell me what you think about." He said to him in the question, he's like, "Tell me what you think happens at our live shows." And Zetro delivered it in a
Yep.
tongue-in-cheek way,
Yeah.
with the idea of like urging people to go in the pit, get insane, just go all balls out nuts, which is funny. But then the other thing about the lyrics that I find interesting is that he kind of it's based partly inspired on 1960s dance songs, which he kind of parodies here in this song, which I find kind of funny. But it's a staple song for them because it's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's on MTV, Headbangers Ball, people knew it. And what's funny is that this album has no singles, but this technically could be a single
Oh
because
yeah.
it was so catchy. And when it was played in Headbangers Ball, people just, you know, um, they gravitated towards it. And I know for a fact that this is the one song that's in their staple. Because when I saw them in 2004, they played this song. I was like, yep, it's a staple song. It's in their live sets. I'm sure you could confirm that as well, Billy, because you've probably seen them a bunch of times as well.
Yeah, no, I've seen Exodus probably 25, 30 times. But yeah, this is always in the live set. So
Yeah.
and it was fun. I don't remember the last time. It was within the last year. Last time they were doing that Titans tour. And I remember going to get my beer and purposely standing to the very far right of the stage. And this track comes on. And I thought for sure I was safe from the mosh pit. Like, no way, right? The whole
But
thing
you,
erupted into like the biggest mosh pit, and my beer was on the ground like a minute, like
oh
30
wow,
seconds later. So, but um, yeah, no, I think it's a great song, right? Like it's part of my those top four tracks. It's just might be the best three opening tracks on the thrash album, perhaps. Um, right? Like it's and Zetro's such a big part of this, right? It's his
oh yeah, yeah.
delivery. I mean, it's so catchy. It's like rhymes in parts of it. It's so good. The again, Gary and Rick, the lead trade-offs are just incredible. Just completely moshable riffs, if you will, and it shows the band, doesn't take themselves too seriously.
Yeah.
It's not like, the violence and the anger and aggressive song. It's a fun song. I mean, Jim, anything you want to add there?
Yeah, I mean, this would be their most mainstream success. I agree with Ken there. This should have been a single. I mean, this should have been, these record guys should have been able to sit there and say, okay, we need to release this as a single. I mean, I know there are some surprises, but when you turn this record on, or when you listen to this record for the first time, that's catchy and it's got a great groove to it. It's just awesome. And everybody, you can talk to any thrash, any metal enthusiast, you bring up Exodus, Bonded by Blood probably is the first album they're going to think of, and this song is probably the first thing they're going to say. And just because that's the most recognizable song in their catalog for especially mainstream fans, I think it's great. And I think it would have been great to have a they could have done that. They could have maybe put one of the covers as a B-side on there. It would have been really, really popular, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah. Okay, so moving on. So that brings us to track number 4, and this is a pretty big change from the first 3. Lowrider.
Go to Jim. Jim's got
so yeah, we'll go to Jim.
Go Jim.
For this, being that it's a cover, it's got to go to Jim first.
Yeah, go Jim.
Oh, God, no. The album is awesome. It's a wicked album, one of my favorite albums of all time. And then they just have this pile of shit on here. I don't even like Lowrider, the original version by War. I think it's fucking overplayed, and it's just, I don't know, some garbage. So I can appreciate it's got a cool heavy vibe. The vocals are really good, and then my third point was it's skippable. And I just there on the re-release there's another cover which blows this one away, and this one's just, man, I know what they were trying to do, but you've got the Toxic Waltz there. You've got mainstream, identifiable. This could have been played on a hard rock / metal radio station back in the day, even a hard rock station. You don't need this pandering with this Lowrider. And I'm sorry if anybody likes it. I don't want everybody to get angry, but I just think it's a waste of a good track spot. We've got a 1, 2, 3 punch here, and then we're waiting for the knockout. We have to skip this. So
sorry, Jim, guys, you should really be honest next time, right? when you're describing.
Yeah, Jim, don't hold back, Jim.
All right, Ken. I don't know how you're going to follow that, but you go ahead.
Well, okay, so just to defend it, just to play devil's advocate for a second, I can understand. I think I understand why they chose the song. I guess they wanted to be. It's edgy in a way by having an urban song that's basically about like 70s car culture and like the whole kind of Chicano movement, and so I can see from that point of view. Like I think that in their mind, it's like, oh, we're being edgy. Why not put the song on here? It's about 1970s car culture, and this is the second time. The song is not even a War song. They don't even own it. There was an original band called Exodus who actually wrote the song. So when War covered it, they actually did. I would assume they improved it to the point where it was inspired probably our Exodus to play the song. So I can see it from. I mean, I agree with Jim to some degree. It's like, yeah, it's a little odd. It's like all of a sudden this like low ride. I'm like, okay, like when you think about it, like the George Lopez show has that song. That song is so overplayed and so commercial that I understand why. Yeah, it's not great, but I do see why they might have wanted to put it on the album, just because. Maybe it's like an edgy song that they're trying to be hip and cool. We're Exodus. We're also hip and cool. I can see that for that reason. I don't know if that's true, but that's just my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. It's kind of off-putting after the first 3 to kind of come here, but I don't know. I guess it's kind of ballsy of the band to throw that on there in the running order like that. But Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it was probably put on, also to help fill the record. Like
Yeah.
it's not the longest record. I mean,
True.
I don't know. Like I guess it's not the worst cover ever, but it's certainly not the best cover. So
I think it's okay. I don't mind it. I
yeah.
actually don't mind the song. I like the song actually.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of War, but I don't mind it because it's kind of quirky. It
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I guess yeah, it's just we can talk about this till the cows come home. Really.
Yeah. I mean,
Never know
Gary
why it
and
was
Rick
picked.
make it metal with the riffs, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
so, I mean, I guess I could see what I could appreciate it a little bit, but
Yeah, but you know what? They could have like this is online with a Rick Derringer cover of Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo. Like, give me
Yeah.
a break. Like, we go from the Toxic Waltz in the Pit to just top 40. Yeah. Sorry.
But Jim, you made your point about on Overkill that the Frankenstein, when they did Frankenstein, it worked.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
song actually worked for that album.
exactly.
Partly because the name is Horoscope and Frankenstein. I guess maybe that was why they chose it. But
Right.
that song actually fit. I don't know. It seemed to fit on the album much more though. So
yeah.
I don't know.
All right, so I think we largely agree, but to different levels, perhaps. So that brings us to the fifth track. So again, we're a little bit different here, also, right? So the band's
Yeah.
taking some chance. We got Cage in Hell, and it's whereas the cover was a couple minutes, this thing's like 6 minutes. So Ken, why don't you start this one?
I think this is a ballsy song too, because I like the fact that they decided to put a little bit of that bluesy opening with the slide guitar and all that kind of thing, and then you get the crunchy riffs. I thought, oh, this is kind of interesting, but the song itself is still brutal. Like the lyrics are insane. Like you're talking about down in the bio where the alligators roam. It's great. Like the song itself is really really good, and it's just another kind of added layer to what this album was really about. I like the song quite a bit. There's lots of crunch to it. The guitars are great. I love the lyrics. The lyrics are kind of, there's a little bit of satire. I think the one thing that Zetro brings to this band, and I know Gary writes the majority of the lyrics, but I think Zetro's approach to when he writes lyrics is a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek satire that he adds to the mix to make it fun and energetic. But this is a great song. I think it's awesome. Those gang shows are incredible.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's pretty unique,
Yeah.
right? Like, I mean, thrash bands weren't doing something like this, right? I can't think of many others that, started off with like a frog at the beginning.
Yeah, the frog.
You got the acoustic guitar, the harmonica, the southern influence, I think you said it, Ken, right? Like the bluesy slide guitar and the twangy style
I love
are
it.
pretty cool. It's a good chorus, right? Some good backing vocals, and like you said, like they mix it up. It's like crunching guitar. Like I think probably the first time I heard this album as a young guy back when it came out in '89, I was feeling a bit upset here because we just had Low Rider, and then Cage in Hell didn't sit with me as well when I was much younger. But through the years, I've learned to really enjoy that song. So I think it's quite strong. Jim, what are your thoughts?
Well, anything that follows Lowrider is going to be aces in my book. So no, it's a great song. I love the little frog intro. It paints a picture in your mind. The harmonica, the acoustic, and then it just rips into it. It's another great drum track too. And I think it's a ballsy move. I think this album has different layers like this. Like, I don't know if we've done necessarily maybe the Heathen album, but an album where it kind of goes off and discovers so many different directions. And that's what I think I like about Exodus. And I think that's what they bring to, as I will call them, the Big Eight, because I'd include them in the back end of my Big Eight for sure. Maybe even in the forefront. I love this band. And that's what I really like. And Lowrider, I can see maybe taking a chance, and okay, I didn't like it, but maybe there's a lot of people that do. But this song I really like. It was refreshing, and it came on. And I know when I was in '89, I was just happy to get out of Lowrider, and then what's coming up is just a freaking masterpiece. So, you know, not to give anything away.
All right. Cool. So yeah, so then let's go there then perhaps. So the 6 track longest song on the album, so we're clocking in over 8 minutes. Like Father, Like Son. Well, Jim, I think you gave it away, so you go here.
Go for it, Jim.
Oh, one of my favorite songs. And I mean, this
Mm.
this has a massive Suicidal Tendencies vibe for me. Like, I find it just, I mean, it's got kind of a doomy, but then it goes into kind of a crossover sound for me. I absolutely love it. And the song just picks up with those vocals. I mean, Steve just sounds so big on this song. And, you know, you're now hitting track 6, and there's a couple of really great songs coming up as well. And this, it just seems like the album's been kind of reset a little bit. And we kind of came out of the cover. We went into Cage in Hell, which is a great song, and now it's just even getting better. But no, this is one of my top 4 on the albums. Absolutely love this track.
Okay, Ken?
Oh, I agree. This is like the best lyrics on this album because, you know, they're writing about the cycle of abuse and how it gets passed down generation to generation, like from father to son. And I love it. And I think Zetro is great here because he's like, please, daddy, no more. And it's like he gets really, really nasty and parts like that. And it's like, oh wow, what a great song. And it's just a really strong song. It's like just the way he handles the vocals and just that snarl to it and with the lyrics. I love it. And then just the opening though, I think I liked it too, because it's like you get that muffled kind of opening where it sounds like it's really muffled, and then it goes into the baby crying, and then the song hits. Wow, what a great song. They're really clever at like getting these really cool intros to start a song. It wasn't just like, oh, we're going to start a song with whatever, but they do these really, really good intros, and I think it worked here. But this is
totally agree. Yeah.
Yep. No, I think it's great too, and it's different also, right?
Yeah.
You've got these 3 like, you know, balls out thrashers to start, and then they're brave and they're taking chances and doing different things. So, yeah, I think that's really cool. And this you get the line of my brother's keeper back in on this track as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, it just the lots of good tempo changes, right? It slows down, it speeds up, it gets heavy, it gets thrashy. It's kind of all over the place. It's quite good. I mean, the riffs and the solos are the best part of it. Yeah, no, I think it's good. I mean, if I'm going to give any like constructive criticism on this track, this is one. Normally, I love long tracks, right? Like coming off of Justice last week. I personally think I would have maybe capped it at like 5-6 minutes, but I don't know. For me, it feels a little bit repetitive. But again, I'm nitpicking. I agree with you guys. I think it's.
I didn't find that.
Yeah. But yeah, like I would say outside of Low Rider, this would actually be my least favorite song on the album.
Okay. All right. Interesting.
But it's a great album, so something's got to come like as a least. It's
very
still
true.
a good track. Okay, cool. So then that moves us into track number 7, Corruption. I forget who's going, who's been running first, but Jim, why don't you start?
Yeah, I mean, this is another great song. There's crushing guitars. I think it's the cymbals intro to it is really, really cool. And, you know, Ken, you hit it on the head when you talked about the intros, because these guys keep you wondering what the heck's going on. Like, I would like to go back in time or be a fan now and just listen to this for the first time. It stands up so well today. And I think the intros excuse me, have a lot to do with that. It gets you interested right off the bat. And I mean, that low end kind of guitar sound, I guess, even mixed with the bass is really cool. The mini solos are great, and the gang vocals in this are phenomenal. This is a great song. And, you know, we're heading towards the end of the album, and we're kind of been put back on track, and we're motoring along here now for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you hit a lot of the points I had for sure. Yeah, and I think the order is good, right? We had
Yeah.
like three different tracks, so let's get back into something a little thrashier. Like for me, like right at about like the 3.5 minute mark or so, or a bit later, it's the best part of the song. It's just
Yeah, I would agree.
it's like 2 minutes. Right,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
it's the final 2 minutes of the song is just shredding,
Yeah.
and so with Gary and Rick, you can't go wrong there.
Mm-mm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, Ken, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I had that in my notes too. The last 2 minutes
Yeah,
with
two
the riffs
minutes.
are the best part of the song. But again, I like the lyrics and I like the way that Zetro sings them. Like, you can take this all to hell, shove it up your ass where the sun ain't shining. Like,
Yeah,
he doesn't pull any punches. He just tells
no,
it like it is. And the song's all about the idea of corruption. They don't like it. They're sort of pissed off about that, and they criticize all forms of, I guess, corruption from what they see, and it's great. It's another really angry song. All the lyrics for me on this album are angry. I find there's
yeah,
a certain amount of anger with maybe a slight twist of tongue in cheek sometimes, but that's
Yeah.
what makes it great. That's what makes it great. Like, going back just for a second to Toxic Wolves, that's what makes it a great song. It's about
Yeah.
violence,
Yeah.
but he's tongue in cheek about it. But
yeah,
he's serious in what he's saying, though. It's like, yeah, he's getting the mosh pit, go crazy.
It's
So yeah,
clever.
yeah, very clever. You're right, Jim.
Yep.
They're very clever, and the writing here is really clever. So I see why this is an album you wanted to do, Billy, because I think it's
Yeah.
maybe their best album for written material. I would think.
It's a good point.
yeah. No, agree. All good points there. So then we go to number 8,
Verbal Razors.
Verbal Racers.
Yeah,
One of my favorite tracks, but
Yeah.
Ken, why don't you kick this one off?
yeah, I like this song a lot too. It's got really crunchy guitars. The speed picks up. It rips.
Yeah.
It's killer all the way through. I like Zetro's vocals here. He's really gnarly, and in the gang show, it's what I also think really helped make this song so great. And it's all about, they're right. They're talking about their frustration with fake people, which, yeah, everyone has to deal with that in their daily life. So it's so great. And that chorus, Verbal Razors, oh
Yeah.
man, cut me down to size. I'm sick of wading through your bullshit. I see through your disguise. Oh, so great. Those
Yeah.
lines are so great. He bites. It's such biting. The vocals are really biting on this
Yeah.
song. This is a fantastic song too.
Yeah, but at the same time, like it's so catchy, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yep,
it's
yep.
like that chorus is like it just gets ingrained in your brain, right? Like
Yeah.
it's so good. Yeah, I mean this for me, it's this track, and maybe for you guys, it's like father like son. I don't know, but like for me, Verbal Racers and the first three are like an entire level above everything else. But again, they're all great. Yeah, Gary and Rick just completely shredding again on here. So relentless. Another good drumming track as well. Yeah, so yeah, I think we're all on the same page, Jim. I can tell from your reaction on screen, you probably agree.
Oh, I'm
Yep.
chomping at the bit here because I love this song. I like this song better than Toxic Waltz. I think
Yeah,
I love
maybe.
Toxic Waltz, but I like this better. This has the best vocals on the album. And Ken
Yeah,
touched on, he said, the best vocals on the album. I think it's freaking amazing. And that guitar trade-off is just so cool. I love it. This is what, this would probably be in my top 3 Exodus songs all time. And I just love it. It's great. And it's song number 8, and it's just, no, this is an amazing, amazing track. And I absolutely love it. And yeah, and the drums as well,
Yeah.
it seems like everybody gets a good shot in the song. Like all the members get to really show their chops off in this song. And I love the placement on it. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, agree. So speaking of placement, should that have been last?
No, I like the. I don't know which copy you're talking about, but the OG, I like the next one. It's pretty good. But
Okay,
this
no,
could
I
have been
like it
last.
too. I'm just trying to throw that out there.
No, the last song works for where it
Yeah.
is.
Okay, cool. So let's go to the last song, Open Season. So Jim, why don't you go?
Yeah, I mean, this is a great song. It's a heavy track. I find it's got a kind of like an Anthraxy vibe for me, which
Yeah.
I mean, I love Anthrax, so I like this. I think it's a great way to end off the album. Um, you know, I would have put another song on here. You know, back in the day, they weren't putting bonus material on because, I mean, a lot of the stuff was on was on actual vinyl, so they didn't have unlimited room like they do now. It would have been great to maybe just throw Lowrider as a bonus track, but they do have another bonus track on the re-releases. But I think this is a great track to end the album off on. You got this absolute banger of track 8 with Verbal Razors, but this one is good too. Not one of my favorites, but definitely a great way to end the album. I'm cool with it. I'm good with its placement. And again, too, this is another heavy drum track as well. And it's got really cool vocal sound to it, I feel. So I really like it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I really like it as well. I mean, I like Verbal Razors better, so
Yeah.
that's why I threw out the thought. But but yeah, and I find this again, they're taking some chances, right? Like the chorus it's a little bit more unique.
Yeah.
Like the way Zetro's singing and the core melody that's included in there is a little different. It's not like pure like by the book, paint by numbers thrash. They take some other chances on this one, but at the same time, it's a thrash monster too. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm good with it. I'm good with it as well. How about you, Ken?
Yeah, the same. I like the song for a lot of reasons, but like open season, the idea of open season on you, it's like love. The chorus is great. Like it's like intoxicating, invigorating. It's open season on you, and it's about a serial killer. So basically, it's about the song just details the idea of a killer hunting down his victims. But I wanted to go one step further because I kind of see this song. I see some echoes of this song in Temple of the Dam. If you go back to, if you remember, like Calling the Herd, um, or even Blacklist, there's elements of it, like this kind of like nasty, I'm going to get you and you're going to pay for it attitude. And I kind of like that. So I think for me as a song, but all their songs are like this. Like they have a nasty approach to thrash metal. I think because they love talking about killers. Like, look at Bonded by Blood, Strike at the Beast. Like,
Yeah.
That's a great song. Like they love that kind of thing. So I think as a closing song, it's really strong for me.
I thought, you know what? For movies, I thought this would be kind of like the songs you brought up, kind of like the soundtrack for the Purge movies in a way, kind of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because
yeah.
I love those movies because they're kind of freaky, and you think, wow, this could happen, like. But that's exactly what I got out of it, is kind of the same thing. I know it's about like you said, a serial killer, but I thought taking it one step further kind of be good, like thinking about it with the movies of the Purge.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it, Jim. I could see that.
Yeah,
good comparison.
Cool. I was just sneaking a peek at the hockey scores for those who are
the Leafs
hockey
won.
fans. So yeah, the Leafs won.
Overtime.
Yes! Toronto won, and the Islanders are officially eliminated.
Wicked. We're getting the cup in Toronto, boys.
Yeah, the bandwagon, everyone's going to jump back on it now.
It was 2-1, so it's pretty close.
Yes.
Okay, so let's get back on track. So yeah, so the reissue had a bonus track. My original pressing didn't have it, but the reissue does. Actually, do I have? I also have a reissue. Yeah, so I actually do have Overdose. I have an original and a reissue of the vinyl. So yeah, so AC/DC cover, Overdose. Jim.
Now this is a good cover. Okay, here's the deal. This should have been with the other, taken place of the other one. I mean, first off, Zetro sounds like Bon Scott when he wants to. I mean, holy shit. It was like, you listen to this and you're just like, holy cow, he's alive. You know what I mean? Like, it just sounds good. And they picked Overdose off of Let There Be Rock, 1977. And what I love about it, they didn't go in, they didn't take from the like a super recognizable song like you know, I mean, something off of Back in Black or whatever. They shook me all night long. No, they went farther back, and that's what, you know, AC/DC fans with Bon Scott. I think it's friggin' great. It's got some of the really good killer guitar riffs in it. I like it. It gives it good homage, and I love the fact that most people, unless it said the AC/DC cover on there, might even mistaken this for their own track. I think if it didn't have that written there, it's that good of a cover. I love it.
Yeah, no, it's a good one, and I mean, I guess it should be right because Zetro has his own AC/DC cover band
Cover band,
called
that's right.
AC/DZ, and he's been touring on that thing forever, right? So
Yeah.
on his downtime and lots of shows in California. So yeah, I like it as well. I think it's quite good. Yeah, Zetro has like features to his voice. I mean, that both Bon Scott and Brian Johnson has little parts, right? I mean, his Exodus, he's a little faster, but if you think about it, the core like raspiness and he's got some things in common there. So, and I also think it's cool.
It's very nasally kind of approach.
Yeah.
That's where you can compare the two.
Yeah, I was just gonna, the last thing I was gonna say, it's pretty cool that like his drummer in the AC/DC cover band is Will Carroll.
Cool.
So that's kind of cool, right?
Death Angel.
Yeah, Death Angel drummer is in there as well. So
cool.
They both love DC. But Ken, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, you guys pretty much said it all. It's a good cover song, and I agree. It would be better having it than Lowrider. It would work better. But I agree to Jim's point though. Like if you didn't know it was AC/DC, you could probably think this is like an Exodus song. Just the style of it. It's good. I think they do a nice homage to it. To me, it's a good song. No question in my mind. It's a good cover song.
Yeah. I mean, the last cover song we talked about that I think was as good as this would have been Kill the King.
Yeah, and that's a great song. Right? Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Okay. So before we get into ranking our top three Exodus albums, anything you guys want to add here?
Oh, they're a great band. This is a great album. Yeah. Probably one of their better written albums in my mind. You can't go wrong with it.
Cool. Yeah, Ken's got me thinking about my top three now because he's right. This is probably the best written album of the first grouping. So but I mean, I'm gonna stick with what I got. But yeah, I can see that definitely one of the best out of probably their whole catalog to some degree.
Yeah, like Pleasures of the Flesh wasn't bad. It was decent, but you could see they were still trying to figure things out a little bit with that album. And in this album, it all comes together in a better way, I think. And the two H's, Holt and Holt, they're great together. So as Billy's been saying all night, they're a great pairing. They're a really, really good pairing, and they play off each other really well. So, yeah. So I would think, this would be probably their best album in terms of the written material.
Okay. Well, let's see where it ranks, Ken. On that note, give us your top three Exodus rank.
I will do that. So at number 3, it's going to be Temple of the Damned. To me, it's like the comeback record of all comeback records. It's really strong, and why I keep going back to is because the writing is really strong. I love the bite. There's a lot of biting lyrics in that too. Like I mentioned, like Blacklist is one of my favorite songs. I love Blacklist. It's so great. And you got Calling the Herd, the Star Spangled Banner, which is another great song. Where's My Shepherd, Forward March. All those songs are great. And I like the fact that they did go back and put Impaler on there, because remember, Impaler was meant to be on Bonded by Blood, but once Kirk left, he took the solo from that song and put it into what song was it? I forget what song he put it into. But once he left and that happened, they dumped the song. But I'm glad they sort of maybe reconsidered and put it on here as like a bonus track or on the album, which I like. So this is a really, really good album for me. It's I like it a lot. And they dedicated it, of course, to Paul. I mean, Paul passed away, but so it's nice that they did this album where everyone came back and everyone decided to give it one last hurrah. So that's my number 3. Of course, my number 2 is Fabulous Disaster. I mean, as I said tonight, it's their best written album in my mind. I think all the songs are strong. They're nasty. Lots of variety on the album. You can't go wrong with this. But number 1 is always going to be Bonded by Blood because it's the OG thrash album, right? Like, it should have came before Metallica. It was actually done before Metallica. So to me, it's the OG thrash album that started it all. It should have. Unfortunately, it came out a year later than when Metallica were putting out Kill 'Em All. But this is the album that, in my mind, that starts it all. Like, you can't get anything better with Paul Baloff. That guy is like, he eats, he breathes, and he shits thrash metal. That's it. That guy, that's what he is. And it's so great. So yeah, that would be my top choice. I mean, all those songs are fantastic. You know, like Strike of the Beast. I love that song. It's one of my favorite songs of Exodus's catalog. You know, but yeah, you can't go wrong. Bonded by Blood, you know, Lesson in Violence, Piranha. Wow, so great, so great. Yeah, so that would be the way I'd rank the 3.
Yeah, I have a feeling you probably weren't a big fan when they re-recorded that album with.
No, I did not like that album
either. But
I'm gonna go on record now. It's garbage.
No,
Sorry.
I knew it wasn't going to come up in the conversation. I thought I'd throw it out there.
Yeah,
that wasn't a good choice.
No. I don't like when thrash, like Anthrax did it too with John Bush, but I mean, I don't like when thrash bands go back to re-record. I'm glad Metallica doesn't do this shit. Like they might put out crappy albums now, but they don't re-record their stuff. They leave it. And that's the way it should be. You shouldn't re-record shit.
Yeah.
No.
Although, with the exception of what we talked about 1 or 2 podcasts ago, those 2 Sepultura redos were.
But just not to get off on a tangent, but Max wanted to honor what was done.
Yeah, exactly.
So he didn't change anything. No. It's just better recording. That's all. Just they had better equipment to record. But obviously, when you heard that album or the 2 albums, he wanted to honor that. So I give totally Max props for doing that.
Yep, totally agree. Jim?
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, Megadeth redid some of them and even changed some of the lyrics in some of their songs off some of their redos that they did, and it pisses me off. But anyways, my favorite 3. So I'm going with my 3rd is the newest album, Persona Non Grata. I love this album, and I mean, I think Blood In, Blood Out is kind of a return, but I think this definitely is the culmination of probably waiting for Gary to get back and get this all back together. But I mean, there's 4 singles off this album that are amazing. The Beatings Will Continue Until Morale Improves. Clickbait's a good song. I listen to this album probably on a weekly basis. It's in my rotation. Love it that much, and I was so glad when it came out. My number 2, this album, Fabulous Disaster. And my number 1, the same as Ken, is Bonded by Blood. I mean, you know, Paul's voice, the whole thing, it's just, this is a thrash album through and through. And and I agree, based on this album alone, you know, when you're talking Big 4, I mean, it's just, this album, they should have been won the race first to get this out. It didn't happen. But I think this album should have been, I mean, you know, Kirk left, everything started to kind of go in different directions and whatnot. But, you know, these guys, this album could easily be in that top 4, the Big 4 for sure. I mean, it's that great of a thrash album. And I think for a lot of thrash fans, probably be in their top 3 to 5, or maybe even their top thrash album. But yeah, it's a great album. I love it.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm going to be the outlier here again.
Okay, go for it, Billy.
Sometimes happens. So my number 3 is the Bonded by Blood. I mean, you guys said everything, right? I mean, And then there were none, Piranha, Strike of
Yeah.
the Beast.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many great tracks, but it's synonymous with old school thrash. But at the end of the day, it's just I'm not the biggest like Paul Bola vocal fan, right? So like like I just never I'll reach to my top two every time before I reach to this. So it
Okay.
just becomes a singer. But I'll acknowledge that the songs are amazing. Similar to Ken, I've got a Temple of the Damned. Just that's an extra vicious record, and like Zetros just delivers those lyrics with extreme intensity. But I think you said this, Ken, but those first three tracks,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Scar and War is My Shepherd and Blacklist and Shroud of Urine, I think it was that comes out like just vicious, man.
Yeah, pretty
And then
nasty stuff.
my number one, which would be also on my
Oh, cool.
top 10 of all time metal albums, is Fabulous Disaster, is where I have it.
Okay.
So not too far off from you guys, but don't have Bonded in my number one spot.
That's okay.
Cool.
Okay.
You know. Cool.
All right, so let's move on to our top 10 of 1989. Such a killer year. We'll leave a bit of time for honorable mentions because I know this
There's a lot.
like there's just some albums that got to be mentioned if there's a new
Oh, hell yeah.
fan listening that we can't ignore. Who wants to go first? How about you, Jim?
Sure, I'll go first.
Okay,
so yeah, this was wicked. You know what the neat thing is in 1989? There was no like Megadeth, there was no Metallica albums. So it's such a deep thrash year that, and without those two big guns putting out any albums, I think it's great. So my number 10 would be Whiplash's Insult to Injury. I'm a huge fan of Whiplash. It's their third album. You know, the first two albums are probably better, but I like this album as well. The song Voice of Sanity is wicked on it. Number 9, I really, really like Shattered Existence by Zentrix. You know, good. Balance of Power on that. Love Zentrix. They're amazing and a great, great album. My number 8, we're going to zip to Canada here. I got to throw in some Annihilator for Alice in Hell. I mean, you know, I can't pick between Alice in Hell and Never Neverland, which one's my favorite. I go back and forth and fight with myself. I love those two albums. Number 7, one of my favorite Kreator albums, and it's probably too far down my list, Extreme Aggression. I think I might have had that. I can't remember when we did our albums for that. When we did our Kreator podcast, I probably had it way higher, maybe in my top 5, but there's so many good albums here. Number 6, Sepultura, Beneath the Remains. That's even probably too far back. I mean, that's a legendary thrash album. I love it. Number 5, I gotta go to Canada again and go with Nothing Face for Voivod. I would probably, you know, there could be an argument there that this necessarily isn't a total thrash album because at this point they had changed from Dimension Hatros, but I don't care. As far as I'm concerned, I still consider Voivod thrash. This was a breakout album and a very commercial success for them, and such a well-produced and good-sounding album. I mean, it's one probably in my top 3 of their albums. Number 4, I have this, Fabulous Disaster, wicked album. Number 3, an album we've covered, Agent Orange, Sodom, come on. And that could easily be my number 1, but number 2, I got to go with Testament, Practice What You Preach. I mean, I love the Legacy and the New Order. This would be the Metallica release in 1989 because it was so good and such a big album for them. And then number 1, hey, it's Overkill, The Years of Decay. I you know, it's so funny. We've done so many Thrashcasts now that I'm like, oh geez, oh okay, you know, and I'm picking all these albums that some of these albums we've discussed. Some of these albums, I think Years of Decay was my number 1 during our Overkill podcast. So you know, it's there's a lot of good stuff there. So, but I mean, I know you guys are probably going to have some little bit more off the wall stuff, but wow, what a great year for thrash.
Okay,
cool.
So yeah, we'll come back around for honorable mentions. We'll do
Yeah.
it
Sure.
Ken, and we'll flip back. So Ken, over to you.
Yeah, so Jim, we have a few that we match. But then I threw in some stuff that, well, it's a little bit different, but we'll see where this goes. So at number 10, I'm going with Viking. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They
Yeah,
put out a
love
few
them.
albums. Man of Straw was one of my favorite albums that they put out. I love the song White Death. They raped the land. They raped the land. Hell, hell is for heroes. That's the Pat Benatar cover song, which I really really like. It's a really really good album. They only put out the two albums. They weren't really well known, although they did reform in the mid 2000s, or I think late 2000s. And they have Gene Hoglan played drums on their last album, which came out in 2015. I like these guys. The only original member is the vocalist guitarist Ron Erickson, but it's a really really good album. Doesn't get talked a lot about, but I liked it.
Yeah, great choice.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I thought it was interesting. Number 9, this might throw you off, but I'm going to go with Bad Brains, The Quickness.
Good
I
album.
love Bad Brains. These guys are great. This is like kind of like crossover punk, thrash, hardcore, whatever you want to call it, but I've always liked them. I love the song Soulcraft, Voyage into Infinity, With the Quickness. These are great, great songs. And I know it's funny because this year, in '89, there were a couple other crossover bands, but I was like, oh, DRI, okay, that's cool. Suicidal Tendencies, yeah, that's all right. But I went with these guys because they don't get talked about a lot. They hardly ever get talked about. And I thought they have a number of albums from that period that should be talked about.
Cool.
Number 8, it's an EP, but I'm gonna put it here because it's still great. 25 minutes long, 5 songs. Rigor Mortis is Freaks. I love this album too. It's basically a follow-up to the first album. So it falls in the same kind of vein, kind of horror metal. So you get songs like The Haunted, Chained in the Attic. The cover art was kind of controversial when it came out because it had all the freaks on it. I know when it came out, people were like up in an uproar, which I don't understand why. I don't get it, but anyways, whatever. Number 7, I'm putting Toxic Think This. I love this band a lot. Now, this album I do like. I actually prefer World Circus a lot more. I think it's a lot more bold. It's a lot more progressive. This is pretty good. There's a lot of good technical speed thrash here. The vocalist is Charles Sabin, who replaced I think Saunders from the first album. He's pretty good. I like the Ed Repka cover. There's a lot of really, really good songs. Think This is a really good song. Greed, Spontaneous. It's a really solid album. Doesn't get a lot of people talking about it either. I know they've reformed and they have new material out, but this album is pretty good. At number 6, I'm putting Annihilator. So Alice in Hell. I mean, what's not to like about Annihilator? Like they're the OG, one of the OG Canadian thrash bands. Alice in Hell. WTYD, Liege, like it's great. All really, really good album. Number 5, I'm going with Kreator, Extreme Aggression. Another good album, and maybe it should be higher. I mean, I'm like Jim, maybe it should be higher, but it's good. No Reason to Exist, Betrayer, Bringer of Torture. There's a lot of really, really good songs on that.
Shitty album cover though, eh?
Yes, that's a good thing you brought that up because I hate the cover. And it's like, why do we go back to these band covers? I don't understand. You're saying the album is Extreme Aggression. What's extreme about a bunch of guys on a cover? It's just stupid.
But we talked about that one, right? That was they have an original cover, which is one of their most like vicious covers ever. That was a major label, right? They didn't want that original album.
Right. So So there's some circumstances for it. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So number 4, I got Sodom, Agent Orange. I know we've already talked about it, but it's a great album. It's probably it's my favorite Sodom album in their discovery. Number 3 is Exodus, Fabulous Disaster, which we talked about. It's a great album. Number 2 is Overkill, Years of Decay. Again, I love this album. Like Elimination, Time to Kill, Evil Never Dies. And for me, my number 1 of this year, because I listened to it so much, was Testament's Practice What You Preach.
Yeah.
For me, it was the album because when I first heard it, I was like, this kind of sounds like James Hetfield because
Yep.
they were very very similar style vocalists, and I like the quick songs. Like there's a lot of fast songs, fast tempo songs, really really good. I love the album cover. That album cover was always something that I really was drawn to. But yeah, you can't go wrong with like Envy Life, Blessed Contempt, Time Is Coming, all great songs, very poignant, very topical lyrics. But that would be my number one choice.
Envy Life is definitely, you
Yes.
could see Hetfield singing it.
I could see that easily. Yeah. It's a great album. I love that album. When I bought it, I played that thing to death. I just couldn't stop playing it.
Cool. I thought we were going to end up having the exact same top five, Ken. We ended up with the same 5, 4, 3, 2. But then we couldn't be any more different on number one.
Okay, fair enough. Anyway. Yeah, man.
Okay, my turn. So I got my props again. So my number 10 is Paradox. So I've mentioned them in one of our earliest podcasts from Germany. I think one of the most criminally underrated bands. So much talent here.
Absolutely.
This thing is sort of technical thrash crossed with speed metal, a very small hint of power metal in here, but I can never recommend this album enough. This is just fantastic. This is the band's best record, I think, in their whole career. Pretty much great stuff from beginning to end. So that's my number 10. My number 9, none of you guys had this one.
That's honorable mention.
Nuclear Assault. I've always been a big Nuclear Assault fan. I love the video for this, the critical mass. It was great seeing it on TV here. Just love the thrash with the crossover influence, and so many good tracks. Search and Seizure, Inherited Hell, New Song, Trail of Tears, mentioned critical mass as well. Then we're going to come up with two of my all-time, well, they are my two favorite technical thrash albums.
I know what these are.
Me being a big technical thrash guy. So we got number 8 is Watchtower. This is such an incredible album. You got to let it sink in on a couple spins, but this is like masterfully created. It's a little different. You don't have the OG singer on here. This is Alan Tecchio on vocals. The musicianship is completely off the charts. I'm not even going to name songs because there's so many good songs. So that's a classic. But now my all-time favorite.
I know it. I know what it is.
Okay, you do? Well, you guys saw my top 50, so you guys know.
But I know we've talked about this. I know why you like it. I know that.
Is this what you're going to say?
Yep. Death Row. Deception ignored.
So Death Row, another German band. This thing is crazy, right? These guys were known as a German thrash band, right? Like old school thrash sound. And this thing dropped like a technical thrash masterpiece out of nowhere. The previous record was nothing like this. People either loved it or hated it. But for me, I love it. So every song is perfect. It's so well constructed. One of the most pleasant surprises in my music loving history, if I could say that. So a must have. But warning, folks, it's very on the technical side. So, but again, you spend like 20, 25 listens, and it's pure magic on that thing. So then I'm jumping over with Jim here. I've got number 6, Nothing Face. I still think a lot of the songs are thrashy, so I had no problem putting it in. But as you said, probably their most progressive album for sure.
Love it.
But Unknown Knows, the title track, Into the Hypercube, even the cover.
Yes.
It's brought me to mind.
Exactly, right. And we actually did a podcast at our old stomping grounds, the Metal Pit, the three of us covered that album. So I think I gave it away saying I matched Ken, but my all-time Kreator record. This is my favorite. Extreme Aggression. I mean, the title track, No Reason to Exist, Love Us or Hate Us, Some Pain Will Last, Betrayer, Bringer of Torture. The whole damn thing is so good. I'm not going to talk about this because we just did a whole podcast on it, but
Agent Orange, yeah.
it's a masterpiece. Sodom, Agent Orange. Again, not going to talk about this because we literally talked about it.
Good album.
Number 3, number 2's coming again off of our Overkill podcast.
Nice.
This is my favorite Overkill album,
Same
as I revealed. And so this one you didn't have, Ken, but you did, Jim. It's hands down my favorite and favored by the band.
Nice.
Beneath the Remains. This to me is the Sepultura masterpiece. Like, as great as Arise is, Arise was a letdown for me compared to this brilliant record. So yeah, that's my top 10. Well,
it was on my list. I actually had it on my list.
Okay.
I took it off last minute.
Okay, cool. And then we'll do a quick roundtable of honorable mentions. I guess I'll start since I'm going. For me, I had Forced Entry, Uncertain Future. I mentioned that recently. DBC Universe, I already talked about that. Toxic Think This is a favorite of mine, but you mentioned that, Ken. DRI Thrash Zone, I'm a big fan of that. Zentric Shattered Existence, you had that. Jim, one of my favorite UK albums of all time. And then Testament and Annihilator, you guys both had it. Jim, how about your honorable mentions?
Yeah, DRI definitely. MOD had an album out that year. But Metal Church had Blessing in Disguise. And I was debating putting it on. I just like the dark probably that much. That made my last list we did. And I thought Forced Entry, Uncertain Future, that's another great album. And I had Handle with Care, Nuclear Assault, and then the Coroner album, No More Color, which is not bad as well. Those were probably my honorable mentions.
Oh shoot, I totally forgot about Coroner, No More Color. Yeah, no, that should have probably been on my top 10 actually. But anyways, how about you, Ken?
Yeah, like I struggled with that too because I had Beneath the Remains on my list. I wanted to put it on there. I took it off last minute because I started thinking about Bad Brains, and I was like, I like that album. Wanted to give it a little bit of a nod. DRI, Thrash Zone is great. Coroner as well. Nuclear Assault I also had on my list, but took it off at the last minute. I have Onslaught in Search of Sanity.
Yeah, it's a great album.
So good.
Yeah, it's with what's his face from Grim Reaper on vocals.
Steve Grimmett.
Grimmett, right. Yeah, that's a great album. I had another band you may not know about, Angor Wat. They're kind of like sort of industrial thrash. I liked them a lot. I was really into those bands. Nasty Savage was another one. Penetration, which I really, really like as well. I just couldn't find room for it. Dark Angel, Leave Scars was a good one. Yeah. Voivod, I know you guys both had. I wanted to put it on my list, and I was close, but I was like, I do like the album, but I had to leave something off. Unfortunately, I would be on my list too, because I listened to that album as much as both you guys did when it came out. And Evil Dead, Annihilation of Civilization was another one. But
that's a good one too.
I like that album a lot too. It's just so many good albums, but we can take 10. And Death Row, I know we talked about the Billy, and I was like, I would agree with you. It's a really good album, but I don't know, I just couldn't find a slot for it.
Is that Evil Dead album? Is that the one where the mascot guy is on the beach? He's like,
yes.
Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah, I like that album. Yeah.
Strong album, but I just couldn't make my list.
I personally think for me, 1989 is the best year in music.
Wicked.
That's just my view, but
no,
it's
you're
my
right.
senior year in high school, so I was like loving life, and it was a wicked, and that's just thrash albums. I mean, you think of all the heavy metal albums that were being released, and kind of the glam end of things were kind of, or the hair metal was kind of going off, sort of another year, and that would be kind of almost gone. So good all the way around.
Yeah, see, I graduated in '88, so I was like a year ahead of you guys. But yeah, I would agree. Like '89 for me,
Yeah.
going into college, it was like, yeah, it was so many great albums. And you know what? Not even just thrash, but like death metal, a lot of really good power metal. There was a lot of really good
Oh, yeah.
metal albums that aren't even thrash that year that came out. Like it's probably one of the best years for metal, period.
And I
you
think
guys are
that,
right.
that Suicidal album, Controlled by Hatred, I think that would have been Robert Torillo's first debut, I think.
Probably.
Because I think Bob Heathcote, he left after that album. He had a couple of tracks on there, but I believe that was his first album. Heathcote left, and then they brought in Torillo. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, I mean, lots of great. We could have did a second top 10 with albums,
It could have been
or a
top
top
20.
20, I guess. But
Yeah, easily top 20.
yeah. All right. Cool. So before we get into wrapping things up, any last words you guys want to say?
No, I'm pretty happy. It's a great album. Exodus are a great band. They deserve as much credit as the big four, and they should be in that conversation. They should be included as far as I'm concerned. But that's the only thing I'll add here.
I think there should be a Metal Walk of Fame, and these guys would definitely have a star way up front, definitely. And I mean, another band that needed probably a little bit more consistent output just from the revolving door kind of members. It just didn't help. But I mean, you know what? Get another album out there now and just keep going. I think the future is definitely bright. To kind of continue along. I still have lots of good albums in them, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, well,
sure.
I think Gary's writing now, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's what I hear. Yes.
Yeah.
They're
So
working on new material.
all right, cool. Okay, so that wraps episode 8. I think it was another good conversation. So next week's topic is interesting. We're out of Germany and we're out of the U.S. So we're introducing a new country this time. We're going with Celtic or Celtic, depending on how you say it, Frost. And we're going to tackle 1985 to Mega Theory on album. So
Yeah.
that'll be an Ken raised that one. So Ken will host that one. So looking forward to that one. And again, thanks everyone for following along. This is now 8 weeks, so 8 podcasts. So we've been at this for 2 months. So thanks to everybody for tuning in, and I think we're regularly getting seeing the views going up. So again, really appreciate that. And thanks to my co-hosts, Jim and Ken. It's lots of fun working with you guys every week.
Mm-hmm. But before we go, Billy, one last time, we're giving away the CD, Cerebral Scar. So please leave us a comment. Just let us know what your best Exodus album is and just a little reason why you think it's the best. And we'll pick a winner from that and we'll send you the CD.
How much time do they have, Ken? Like, is there a cutoff?
No, we'll give it about a week.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
All right, cool. All right, well, that wraps, like I said, episode 8. Have a good night, everyone.
Yep. Good night.
Good night.